And they are telling the electorate, we hold the yam and the knife. When you toe our line, we'll give you the yam. That is why Siaya goes there. And the governor says, we have come out with development. Kisumu visits and says, we have come out with development. Kisii goes there, we have come out with development. Meru goes, Embu goes, we are in the dark ages. This is what we intended to eliminate. 10,000 teachers go there, and each one of them, I do not know on which budget, say we were each given 10,000 Kenya shillings. It is tragic, it is unfortunate, it defeats what we fought for, and it is sad. And that is not how you run a country.
Yes, PLO Lumumba, Kenyans should wake up. Kenyans should wake up because we know the recent happenings and how State House has been just turned into another gimmick of buying votes. I mean, who hasn't gone to State House of late? Because Ruto has said that State House is for Kenyans. Anyway, Professor PLO Lumumba recently just released another bombshell at Spice FM on his appearance on the morning show. You know, PLO Lumumba dropped a message that should make every citizen actually, wary, and your skin should be crawling, and you should actually be very angry on the latest happenings here in Kenya. In his little speech, Lumumba said that this is not just how a country should be run, and he being one of the makers of the constitution, this is not what they dreamt of, or this wasn't their vision as the consultants who are making this constitution, because they never dreamt of State House being more of like a powerhouse where people or leaders could go and get development. Lumumba said very clearly that State House is not a place where development is thrown to buy loyalty, and we know this is what Ruto has been doing lately. Everyone now is heading to State House, be it teachers, be it members of parliament, be it, citizens from Moranga, from Kirinyaga, from Kisii, name them. You've been seeing all these happenings. But anyway, I would just want us to listen from PLO himself and what he had to say about this and the current happenings. And this is why many of you now must understand why Ruto should be serving his only one term. But anyway, before we listen to PLO Lumumba, I want you to take 3 seconds of this video to just hit on that subscribe button and also hit on that notification bar so that anytime I do a video, you are able to be notified. Come on, let's listen to PLO.
We are in a place whereby there are many considerations that are being made in terms of leadership, and that we see a time where there is a lot of traipsing to State House for what would be promises, what would be establishments of development coming from the president. Do we have a different outlook of the nation, or are things still going in a direction which we need to claw back from?
We have been here. I was here in the 1980s, in the 1990s, and when we were agitating for constitutional change, one of the things that we wanted to eliminate was the personalization of state power. We wanted to institutionalize power and to institutionalize the use of public resources. We did not want State House once again to be a site where people are invited and then they go out with something called development. That is pure pork barreling in the United States. And let me break down what pork barreling is. It is the use of state resources by public servants to hoodwink the public for purposes of attracting votes. The President of the Republic of Kenya and many public officials are on a campaign mode. And they are telling the electorate, we hold the yam and the knife. When you toe our line, we'll give you the yam. That is why Siaya goes there. And the governor says, we have come out with development. Kisumu visits and says, we have come out with development. Kisii goes there, we have come out with development. Meru goes, Embu goes, we are in the dark ages. This is what we intended to eliminate. 10,000 teachers go there, and each one of them, I do not know on which budget, say we were each given 10,000 Kenya shillings. It is tragic, it is unfortunate, it defeats what we fought for, and it is sad. And that is not how you run a country in the 21st century. It is unfortunate, it is painful, because what we expected is that once you've devolved power, there is a government plan which speaks to every sector. And see, as all this is happening, our lecturers in public universities are on strike because they have not been paid. County workers have not been paid. Pending bills are in the billions. The Auditor General is telling us that the counties have 5,000 accounts which are not known. There are ghost workers and ghost students. Theft of public resources, it is at another level. The courts are telling us we should not campaign, and everybody is on a campaign mode. Investors are saying this is not the place to invest in now. It is sad. It is unfortunate. It is painful.
And even with those sentiments, PLO, the president has been very clear and has come overt in no uncertain terms and said that anybody who would say the words that you're speaking now is against development, that doesn't want to see a situation where we make things better. And he said, even coming out of State House, that we don't care what they say. We are going to make this country better. We will put money in the hands of people. We will make sure that we develop. I am the best president that Kenya has ever had, and that we will not stop. In the next 2 years, all these things that we said we're going to do, we will do. And the naysayers will not detract us.
Of course, we've heard such rhetoric before, but I've never heard anybody saying I'm the best. It is history that makes that judgment. And the jury remains out until historians are able to say and to judge what it is that you did. Let's look at the statistics. Your teachers, your lecturers are saying, we are not going to work. And as I speak to you now, there is no teaching in all public universities in this country. Your workers are saying that they have not been paid for the months of July and August, and every other county is issuing a memorandum. Your doctors have not been paid. Your different sectors of the economy have not been paid. Your suppliers of goods and services have not been paid. Where is this money in the people's pockets? The evidence contradicts the assertions. I can give you personal examples. I did work for a quasi-governmental organization in the year 2014. I've court orders have not been paid. And many are the testimonies. Companies are being wound up. Houses are being sold. Where is this money in people's pockets? My president convinces us that we need a house levy. We deduct it from our workers. Then my president tells those who have participated in sports, I'm going to give you the houses. Where is the logic? My president tells teachers, I'm going to give you 20%. Is it my president's to give? Even if you want to be charitable, you feel pained. And we feel pain. We've been around. What we are worrying about are the younger generation. And when the economy is doing well, it is self-evident. Look, go around the country. I was in Lodwar for the last 3 days. But for non-governmental organization, there is no government presence worth of talking about in that part of the world. Lodwar is 77,000 square kilometers, Nyanza, Western, Kiambu combined. Only one courtroom. Police stations 100 kilometers apart. NGOs are the ones that are keeping that part alive, and the people themselves. And yet I'm being told that I have no right to speak about this. This is what we said in our constitution. People died and were jailed for it. that we may speak out, every government must be checked. And that is why I say that governments are instituted amongst men and women, that they may serve those, and that they must be kept under constant interrogation. That is a constitutional right. And it is easy to dismiss people who are well-meaning. Those of us who keep on voicing the things that we are voicing, we do so out of patriotic duty. Because as Chinua Achebe, is it Wole Soyinka, who said, the man died in silence who remained silent in the face of tyranny. We cannot keep silent. We must speak out. We must point out, because no leader is infallible. Every leader must be subjected to scrutiny. How is it that we now live in a country where court orders are disregarded? We now live in a country where our parliament is silent on all things except the CDF, which they want to use for purposes of pork barreling. They are silent. There are things that call for emergency. People are killed in the streets. My good friend Chalom Bovu is killed like a rat in the streets. And Parliament does not convene. People are attacked in River Road during daylight. A young girl is raped in Homa Bay during daylight and acid poured on her face. And I'm being told that our country is doing well in the retail sector. Look at the entire retail sector. Look at who are dominating our retail. If it is in the taxi business, is Uber from San Francisco and Bolt from Estonia. If it is in the supermarket space, is Carrefour from France. If it is transportation on motorbikes, is Glovo from Spain. If it is security, is Gadawal from Quebec. These are the realities. And when I'm told that the Kenyan economy is growing, where is it growing?
So Kenya doesn't have a hold on its economy?
We don't.
Doesn't have a hold on its infrastructure?
No, we don't. Look at even matters as mundane as sewer construction in Nairobi is to a Chinese company. We've been producing civil engineers since the 1960s. Where are they? Where are they that they cannot build bridges? Where are they? And this money leaves our country, and we are not for one moment saying that they should not. The IEBC is telling the world, we cannot run elections, we have no money. The evidence is there. The evidence speaks for itself. And you see, if we were to admit that there is a problem in our country, we would work jointly. A month ago, I was in Abuja, Nigeria, and there was a leading Kenyan politician present there with only 4 of his aides. And he told the audience, I came by private jet, which I suspect is paid for by taxpayers.
Said this in your presence?
In my presence. Private jet from Kenya to Abuja in Nigeria. Helicopters dominate our airspaces from Fridays attending funerals by public officials. Money is there to be wasted, but there is no money to pay our lecturers. There is no money to pay salaries. You drive across Nairobi below the expressway. The roads are dilapidated. I lived in this city. Garbage is uncollected. The sewer lines are breaking. That is the state of our country. A great country. Still a good country, which we must make good and great. But the level of arrogance in political power in this country is without comparison. I've been around.
PLO, it's very painful listening to what you've just said. I mean, it paints a picture because sometimes within the media space, there's always this question of it's not all dark and gloomy, and there are other good things happening. If you look at the newspaper in front of you, the Standard is reporting we're in a Shylock economy. Look at the Star. Governance to face EACC over dubious county hustlers' funds. Then you've got a Homa Bay governor here, for example, the sport as wage bill jumps by 400 million. You earlier said there are counties that are operating with 300 bank accounts, 400 bank accounts, one county, and money is embezzled into all this. You look at the Business Daily, fake 39 billion supplier bills exposed in City Hall audit. This is from the control of budget. Nairobi blames inflated lawyers' bills and state debts. You look at the Daily Nation, again, same thing. Cabinet secretaries on early campaign trail, and several ministers are openly dabbling in partisan politics, including House speakers. This is the state of the nation. At what point do we say enough is enough? And is there, because you've been here long enough, have we reached a boiling point yet? Because I look at nations where they've gone over and beyond. A few weeks ago, we saw what happened in Nepal. And it was a build-up of corruption issues where officials are taking their children abroad for further studies, where they are buying expensive cars, expensive clothes, expensive jewelry. And there is this show and arrogance, like you said, of what are you going to do? There is opulence. It appears money is flowing within a few. But then you have a generation that is saying, you know what? Enough is enough. Have we reached that point where we can clearly say enough is enough? And what's the hope with all this despair?
No, my brother and my sister, hope can never die. And the reason why Kenya remains the way it does is because there is a critical mass of Kenyans who still do a good job. They are to be found in the civil service. They are to be found in the streets of different parts of the country. They are still doing a good job. And that is why the country is still held. But there is a small percentage, perhaps they don't even number 3,000 in this country, who assume that the rest of us are a bunch of dunderheads, a bunch of fools who can be manipulated without consequence. And history is clear, history is consistent, that there comes a time when the people can no longer resist it. And history tells us, beware the fury of patient people. I used to hear this rhetoric that I hear in this country during the Duvaliers in Haiti. I used to hear this rhetoric in Mobutu. I used to hear this rhetoric in Jean Bedel Bokassa, Central African Republic. I used to hear this rhetoric from Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh. I used to hear this kind of rhetoric from the Rajapaksas in Sri Lanka. I used to hear this rhetoric in Nepal. The signs are there, as is written in the Bible, mene tekel upar sin. And the sooner the political leadership begin to realize that the anger is welling up, the quicker we'll save our country.
Do they even know that Kenyans are angry?
Sometimes people live in a bubble. And they think that what is being written in the newspaper is fiction, which is being created by journalists. This is not fiction. I travel across this country more than the average Kenyan. This is not fiction. This is the reality. When you see governors doing what they are doing, and then you hear people say, the EACC should stop corruption. How can the EACC stop you from being evil? When you hear that there are 400 accounts and 400 million to be expended on budgets, and you go to those spaces, and what we see is what in Kiswahili is called Kinimacho, Governors Conference. What was the value? What was the product? How did it benefit Kenyans? How many millions were expended during that particular conference?
Just a couple of weeks ago.
Just a couple of weeks ago. You now have these conferences about investment. How much is spent and how much investment comes. We have all these jamborees at which monies are expended and opulence is demonstrated. I ask you to go to different parts of Nairobi and different parts of the country and see the kinds of buildings that are rising courtesy of the political class, whose salaries are known. And people are seeing this. We are getting into a space like there was in France in the days of King Louis XIV, where the people are saying, we want bread. And Marie Antoinette, the wife, says, if they don't have bread, give them cake. Little did she know that they actually have nothing to eat.
They cut off her head eventually.
And their throats were cut. When you see it being said, Shylock economy, the women will tell you in this country what is keeping us alive are chamas. The circles are also being looted. But they'll tell you it is because of the circles that we survive. What is called the black tax. People who are employed and salaried are sending money to their kith and kin for purposes of survival. Yet a politician comes to a public rally and in a church and gives 5 million, 100 million. In one weekend, some politicians give more money than they earn throughout their entire life as members of parliament. What is the source of that money? It is Kenyan money.
We must ask. And this is interesting it's interesting and sad at the same time, because as we have these conversations and we want to move towards development, you want a country whereby the rule of law and constitutionalism is upheld, but you want a country that will have statesmen and women in place that are essentially the vanguards of the livelihoods of Kenyans. But a week ago, we had a conversation here, and it struck me. I'm heavy of heart when I think about the 100,000 community health volunteers that were hired by government. They're given a stipend of 3,500 shillings per month. A gentleman stood on this stage and told us how he would take a woman who is in labor
at 3 in the morning.
At 3 in the morning to hospital. He's got to figure out how he's going to do that. And while he is taking her, he's leaving children in that home who will maybe go to school the next day and they don't have anything to eat. From that 3,500 shillings, he's got to see how he can buy a packet of unga, sort it out for them to eat. He's taken this mother to hospital. And the hospital, where we are told that the health system is functioning, has told him, well, have you come? Yes. We don't have gloves. We don't have gloves. You have to get gloves for us to then be able to treat this woman. This same woman is going to be asked to bring her own cotton wool to take care of herself after she's been delivered of her baby. She doesn't have the luxury of spending an extra night in hospital because how is she going to pay for it? She can't afford the 300 shillings a month for a health payment that would see that her delivery is taken care of. That's the reality, PLO.
My sister, if therefore the education system is broken, if the health system is not functioning and we are told and we see how much is lost through SHA, if our agriculture is not doing well, and I know we are importing onions from Tanzania, nothing wrong with it. In my rural village, there is a market called the Uganda market. That is where we get food on Sundays in a place called Usenge in my rural home. You walk into a place called Beyond Fruits, you'll discover that the oranges are from Egypt. And the reality is, tell me which sector. I talk to and work with individuals in the security sector who are watchmen and watchwomen, if you may. They are paid 10,000 bob, some of them a month, and you've just given the story. In other words, this is the time when a country sits back and a country assesses where she is and confronts the issues head on, and we begin to resolve these issues. This is not a time for orgiastic chest thumping. No, it is not. This is not a time for pork barreling where we run around the country and give something we call development, where we celebrate the number of stadia that we have built. No, this is not the time. People want food. People want to go to school. People want real things. People want their lives to be changed. Because what is development? Development is not things. Development is about people, young people, their parents taking their children to school, and those children upon graduation have opportunities to thrive, to invent, and to innovate. I go into restaurants and I talk to some of the young people who are waiting, have been served in hotels by engineers who are earning 10,000.
We had a gentleman here from what was it, the Engineers Association, and what he was telling us, the painful part is we have graduates, and the process that you go through in our education system to then become a certified engineer is very, very long. It's very laborious. But at the end of it all, what they're only asking for is to be involved in a lot of these projects that are coming up. And the gentleman said, you know what's happening is we are being sidelined. Instead, we are getting these Chinese coming, taking over jobs that we can do. There is what the law says, but then there's the reality now of what's happening in the job market. And they're saying all we're asking for, we've gone to school to study these things, to do these things, and we can do these jobs, but we can't get these jobs because the government then has allowed all these other experts from outside the country to come in. Then they're paid 2 times what the local person is asking. My question is, if you canvass the different sectors, we are clearly against the wall. If it's education, every day you watch the news or read the newspapers, there's nothing to smile about. You look at education, children going to school, we are already destroying the future of these young people. And the reason is the less than 3,000 you mentioned, their children don't go to local schools. We see the optics on Instagram, on Facebook, on X, where they go join their children in Australia, in the US, in the UK, celebrating their their children who are graduating from these very expensive universities. Locally, they can't even afford. A teacher was once saying that he cannot even afford to take his own child to a local university, leave alone a college. Then you look at the health sector. The president yesterday in Mombasa said that the government from tomorrow is going to pay for the poor and the vulnerable, for the SHA, the 1.5 million who are not able to pay. The government is going to pay for them. We don't know where this money is coming from. Ndu did the math this morning. It's coming to 10.8 billion. The president is not telling us where this money is coming from. They don't go to our local hospitals. If they have a cough, they will go somewhere in South Africa or Germany or in the United Kingdom. So we are in this situation where every sector you look at is affected. If we are to do a reset, and if you're to speak to our listeners and those who are watching, if you're to fix then this country, where do we even start?
You know, you've asked a critical question. You know, there is the assumption by Kenyans that by voting out one set and bringing another set will solve our problem. The problems of this country are now deep and systemic. Deep and systemic because the institutions which ought to be the guarantors of good service have been progressively destroyed. If you look at the education sector, and let's start with the universities. Universities are run by councils and senate. Today, we hear it is the politicians who are telling us how much fees should be charged. In other words, we have destroyed the governance structure at the universities. In the tertiary sector, you saw 10,000 teachers. Not even one of them had the courage to say this is not how we govern our education sectors. They have all been decimated. So we have killed institutions in that regard. You look at budgeting. When the President of the Republic of Kenya says we are going to pay, how did Parliament approve that expenditure?
Did they have the conversation?
Did they have the conversation in Parliament, the people's representatives, to determine that we are going to spend the billions in paying for these individuals? When was this debated? Which vote is being charged? In other words, Parliament is completely neutered. Look at the judiciary. The judiciary issues orders which nobody obeys. So the pillars of what we call a democratic dispensation have been destroyed. Look at the counties. The new game in town is impeachment. And once it's impeachment, it opens floodgates for bribery. And we know that that is up. So what must we do? What we must do is that the people now must begin to take charge through civil societies. People must begin to articulate their affairs, and people must make demands of their politicians. That is assuming that the change that we desire will come in a peaceful manner. And let's not delude ourselves. If we are not quick enough to arrest this rot, then God forbid that I'm right.
And
God
often,
forbid. The people will one day simply say, enough is enough. And we have seen enough of it. We saw it in the Arab Spring. We saw it recently in Nepal. The people will say that. Kenyans, to their credit, always come to the streets, and then they give opportunity to the politicians to right their wrongs. But because they assume that Kenyans' memories are so short, they then go back to their old ways. Look at what we call opposition now. What is opposition about it? They are the same individuals who, not so long ago, were in the government. What change can they guarantee? Simply because they were removed from the eating table, now they have had a Pauline convention. Kenyan voter is also to blame. When good men and women come with good ideas, with good proposals, your typical average Kenyan will vote tribe, will vote for because of 200 shillings. So we are also co-authors of our own misfortune. The time for us is to wake up. If you are living in Nairobi, what does it matter, the tribe of the person that you vote? When you are boarding a plane, do you ever ask the tribe of the pilot? When you are taking a matatu, do you ever ask the tribe of the matatu driver? You simply want a good matatu driver. But when it comes to driving the nation, you now ask whether they are from your clan or for your tribe. So we too, as Kenyans, as long as our conversation is around tribe and tribal kingpins and around the money that is used to bribe us, we'll never change this system.
Absolutely on spot, PLO. And I like his closing statement that the money that is used to bribe us will never change the system. And all of us Kenyans know that this will never change the system. It's us as Kenya to make this bold decision of ensuring that we are not bribed, especially to vote for leaders who are not serving us. Lumumba's warning has been bold, and he has been very directly at criticizing the government and doing them even letters, but they have never responded. Status is not supposed to be used, for political favor or to attract political or public trust the way Ruto has been doing. And this is one way that Kenyans shouldn't accept to be hoodwinked. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think PLO Lumumba's warning echo the silence of many Kenyans? I mean, what has been your decision, especially to Kenya Kwanza's government? Do you think they're going to serve another term? Will you vote for them? Anyway, I mean, that is up to everyone's personal and, sacred choice on who they're going to vote for. But one thing remains certain, that for too long, politics has traded truth of theatrics. And we've seen this much with the previous government, where people have been weak to elect people who aren't deserving to lead Kenya or to bring the change that we want to see. But anyway, do we think the opposition will bring the change, or will keep Ruto at, track to ensure that he serves one term? Anyway, that's up to them, and we are waiting to see how things will fall out, especially 2026, the election year, the campaign year, being so close. Anyway, that brings it to the end of this video. If you found, PLO's words so powerful, why wouldn't you just take 3 seconds of this video to hit on that subscribe button, and also hit on that notification bell so that anytime I do a video, you are able to be notified. Until next time, adios.